I love you.
Get the fuck in here! Justin Fields! No! Oh my God! If you were just tuning in to the St. Patrick's Day Live, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you were here. I'm so sorry you missed. Tone, we were having a good time. We were talking about Keenan Allen. We were just live talking about Keenan Allen, the Chicago Bears, Justin versus Caleb. We were even going to talk about the news from NBC Chicago today that was just reported an hour ago that Justin Fields and their Pittsburgh Steelers had mutual interest, just to come to find out while we were live that Justin Fields has been traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 6th round pick. Tony, say something, please. I need to collect myself.
Well, I'm gonna add a little bit of fuel to the fire, because you want to know what's really gonna make me angry?
Please.
Is when they draft Caleb. Here's the thing. You already talked about how Tyler Scott wears number 13, and since Keenan Allen is coming there, is he going to be able to get number 13? You already know with how big of a drama queen Caleb is. He's going to be like, I want number 13. I'm owed number 13.
For
No,
sure.
you're not owed nothing. You get 0.
Wow. And then my boy Jordan Jotzett, he does amazing things as well. One of the best flag football players I know. He said could be a 4th round pick due to playing time. Now, here's my thing. With Russ being there, that definitely verifies that Justin's being the backup. There's no question about it. Obviously, yesterday, they move on from Kenny Pickett because Kenny Pickett decided that he was going to be a piss poor sport and didn't want to be a backup. We saw Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, of all people, was willing to be a backup for Aaron Rodgers, but Kenny Pickett was too good. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph took your job. They wanted to bring in a mature leader, a guy who's willing to learn, willing to be a sponge in Justin Fields, maxed up with Mike Tomlin. Let me tell you something. This is the worst situation for Justin Fields, in my personal opinion, because you have Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator. Imagine having 2 mobile quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and he doesn't know what to do with it. I bet you he's running HB dive all the way with Najee Harris the entire time, or he's going to pick some random tight end to be his favorite number 1 option that's not named Pat. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know. Right now, I'm in a glass case of emotions. I have no idea what the fuck is going on right now. Every time I'm live, I was live for Josh Jacobs. I was live for DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, and now I'm live for Justin Fields. Like, at this point, Tony, I don't think I can go live anymore. I think I just need to calm down. I just need to The fact is, Tone, Tyson Bagent's career in Chicago lasted longer than Justin Fields because he still has 3 years left on his deal. And that is what is blowing my mind right now. So take me through, where you're at right now, because obviously we were having conversations about, hey, listen, I understand we just traded for Keenan. I understand that, we have DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, but there was a potential chance the Bears traded down from 1, 2 to 3, to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, number 1 is going to Caleb Williams, undoubtedly, unless Ryan pulls off a masterclass. But, I don't think that's the case. But where are you at as it pertains to that number 9 pick? Are we going Dallas Turner?
If it's me, I still go get a wide receiver, because you still got to think, if you look at the overall draft board where everybody's at, Washington's going to take a quarterback, so you don't have to worry about that. The Patriots are more likely going to take a quarterback. You don't have to worry about that. The first wide receiver off the board is more than likely going to be to Arizona. Then you've got the Chargers, who are probably going to take, they got to get somebody, and they're not going to take a quarterback, so they're off the board. New York is probably in the market for a quarterback. So then you've got I can't remember who's at 7. Is that who is at 7? Is that
7?
Atlanta?
No, Atlanta's at 8.
Atlanta's at 8.
I know the Chargers are at 5. I know the Giants are at 6. Um, but yeah, that's I don't know
But
who's at 7.
here, I'll figure it out here in a second. But nonetheless, if Atlanta's at 8, Atlanta, they just signed Kirk Cousins, so they're going to be out as far as a
Yeah.
quarterback goes. So there's a lot of potential for Chicago to be able to still get a top wide receiver in the draft. And plus, here's kind of the other thing too, that even if you don't get like
Titans are at
Marvin
7,
Harrison,
Tone.
huh?
Titans are at 7.
Oh, Titans are 7. So honestly, they're another one. They could really be in the market for anything. I don't think they're in the market for a quarterback though.
Right.
So really we'll say the Cardinals, the Chargers, and the Titans and the Falcons are your top 4. So you might still have Brian Thomas from LSU there on the
Right.
board, that you could go get. You could also have Xavier Worthy from Texas, who I really like because he's a good speedster. He's a really good slot guy. But
I think you have to go Jared Versay or Dallas Turner. I do. I think I completely hear what you're saying. But I made this argument with a couple of buddies of mine, kind of talking about it literally this morning. I said, if
mhm,
they take Caleb Williams, I don't think they take a wide receiver in the first round unless Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze are there. If they're not, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. being in that list as well. If they're
mhm,
not, I don't see it happening just because Montez Sweat hasn't been paired up with anybody yet. I believe Yannick Ngakoue is a free agent right now, if I'm not mistaken, or he's just
mhm,
kind of not in a position to where he's going to have success long term with the Bears. So I think you bring in a young pass rusher, top 10. Turner and Jared are absolute studs without a
mhm,
question. So I'm excited to see what that could potentially look like. Obviously, you address both sides of the ball in the first round because you understand you have very limited picks now. We are
yeah,
not trading down. We are drafting Caleb Williams #1 overall. And that's just what it is. You know what I mean? And I want to say this right now. We have 125 people, over 125 people right now between TikTok and everywhere else. I want to say something because I think it's important. I think a lot of people think I lead the charge in the Justin Fields community and trying to say that he should be QB1 for the Bears. But I will say this. I'm not upset about them drafting Caleb Williams. Am I pissed that a guy who rushes 1,000 yards a year just got traded for a 6th-round pick? Sure. Like that we're going to have that conversation. Please bear with us. But I'm not upset at the simple fact that Caleb Williams is probably going into the best situation possible that any Bears quarterback has gone into in the last 20 years. Without question. Jay Cutler went into a situation where it was Devin Hester and Johnny Knox. And sure, later on he got Marshall and Jeffrey, but that was 6 offensive coordinators later in a span of 8 years. So everything was pretty much already fucked by that point. Mitchell Trubisky, you had Joshua Bellamy, Mike Glennon, and who is it? Kendall Wright as your wide receivers in your first year. And then you have Justin Fields, who has Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and then immediately goes into a rebuild following that season. Gets
yeah,
sacked 7 times in his first start against the Cleveland Browns. Like, horrible situation. We saw Trubisky gets drafted, and what happens? John Fox is fired immediately after that season. You see Justin Fields gets drafted. Matt Nagy is immediately fired the following season. So right now, Caleb Williams is in the best situation we have seen any Chicago Bears quarterback in the last 20 years. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Shane Waldron, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, a revamped offensive line, a top 5 defense led by Matt Eberflus, Montez Sweat, and Jalen Johnson. I think Caleb Williams is in a situation right now to where he is completely at the helm. This is your town to take over. If you're the next Patrick Mahomes, then fucking be that. But don't sit here and fucking cry that things didn't work out because this is the perfect situation for 2 things. 1, the biggest bust in NFL history, or 2, the greatest story in Chicago Bears history where Caleb Williams can go down as the greatest Chicago Bears quarterback immediately in his first 4 years if the Bears are able to win a Super Bowl. That's point blank, period. I understand the Jim McMahon thing. I
oh
understand
yeah,
I understand Sid Luckman in the 1940s. That's cool. If Caleb Williams comes into this situation, Tony, and wins a Super Bowl in his first 4 years, or at any point, he will go down as a Chicago Bear and Chicago sports legend.
yeah.
A legend. I mean, people still talk about Rex Grossman and Kyle Orton for just getting to the thing, and they were horrible. They were horrible. So we call him Sexy Rexy. He ain't all that in a bag of chips, but it just was what
No.
it was. We love Josh McCown because he threw 5 tutties against the Packers on one Sunday night in Green Bay. Like, we're in a situation right now to where this is Caleb Williams' job to lose. This is it. You know what I mean? This is Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert. We can do it again, Tone. Like, right now, would you argue that this might be the best altogether put roster that we've seen even in 2018? This goes back to the early 2000s. I think this isn't that Super Bowl team, but
Mhm.
they're slowly getting to that point to where I'm like, I look at them and I go, this is one of the better teams I've seen.
Yeah, and I would even go as far back as probably that 2012, 2013 team when you still have Urlacher, you still had Briggs, you still had Peanut Tillman, on the defense, you still had
Tim
Forte on
Jennings.
the offense, you had Tim Jennings, Chris Conti, bum, but you still had him at safety.
We didn't have to do
uh,
that.
I know, I'm sorry. It was just one of those. I remember watching him number 47. I was like, I
My
don't
my
even know why you
eye
go on
my
this
eye
name, dude.
flicks. My eye flicks it twitches every time I hear the name Chris Conte.
But no,
Peppers. Yeah.
like we were going to talk about when at the time we were going to debate if it was Justin or Caleb. I still think this is probably one of the best situations to go to. And like we even talked about before, whether they drafted Justin and complete, or whether they didn't draft Justin, whether they kept with Justin and it was ended up fizzling out, this would still be one of the most attractive free agency spots for people to come to
Yeah.
too, because the last couple of years the Bears have fixed their salary cap situation. They've signed a bunch of guys. A bunch of these guys are now locked in their contract for a few years, and they can draft a lot of guys. Now, I know when you were saying as far as what they should do with the 9th overall pick, should they draft a defensive guy? I honestly think what they should do is draft. I saw one mock draft do the tackle out of Oregon State, which I don't think would be bad. The guy out of Oklahoma wouldn't be bad either.
Okay.
Um,
He's
because
got
you,
the I'm not trying to put him in a box, but he has an interesting last name. You're talking about
he
the
does.
offensive lineman.
Yeah,
It sounds with an O, right?
it does. Yeah.
It
I
does.
don't
I
like,
can't pronounce it right now. I'm so sorry.
yeah, but nonetheless, because to me, those guys, this draft is really good for wide receivers and for a lot of your major skill positions. Like, this is a super deep draft, absolutely everywhere. So even if they don't make that pick at number 9 for one of those guys, and maybe they trade back a little bit to gather more picks to add more to the arsenal, I don't really think the Bears can go particularly wrong in this situation. The only thing I could see the Bears potentially doing, and if Ryan Poles does this, I think I'd have to quit. If for whatever reason he decides JJ McCarthy needs to be drafted by the Chicago Bears, I think I just have to quit professional football all entirely, because he's not going to be the guy.
No,
But no,
yeah.
I do think realistically though, this is the best Chicago Bears team potential we've seen since at least that 2012-2013 season.
Yeah, like I really like I broke this down the other day and I said the tandem, and we even talked about it before the breaking news happened. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen to me are the best Chicago Bears wide receiver duo potentially of all time.
Mhm.
We're not talking about longevity. We're not talking about like the Brandon Marshalls and the Alshon Jeffries. I'm talking about if you put all of the duos that have played together on the Chicago Bears in the same season, I'm looking at Keenan Allen and I'm looking at DJ Moore and saying these are the best 2 wide receivers we've had at the same time. Better than
Mhm.
Marshall, better than Jeffrey. That's truly how I feel. So you bring in Cole Kmet to that, which is going to be an amazing position with Gerald Everett blocking the majority of the time in a new revamped offensive line. But I think on top of DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson, like Caleb's in a situation right now to where, if you're that guy, you're that guy. You know what I mean? I'm talking
Mhm.
10,000 passing yards. I'm talking 93 touchdowns passing, 27 rushing, 960 rushing yards in college. Like kids had over 100 total touchdowns in his collegiate career in 3 seasons and a Heisman
Mhm.
winner. So listen, I don't want anybody to think my tune has changed. I have always said this. If Caleb's that guy, Caleb's that guy. But until then, JF1 is my guy. And unfortunately, after today, happy St. Patrick's Day. Fucking ruined my St. Patrick's Day, Ryan Poles. But it is what it is. The Fishes are confused. Bears fans are confused. Everyone doesn't know what's going on. All I know is the river's fucking green. But I think at the end of the day, let's get into it. Let's have a conversation. And if you're new here, make sure you smack that follow button because we're gonna be covering it way more than just this breaking news. We're gonna be live all night long. We're gonna be talking about Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, what's going on in the draft now. Caleb Williams' pro day is less than 5 days away, but let's continue the Justin Fields talk for just a second because what I was very shocked about was the 6th-round pick. Sam Howell just got traded for a third.
Yep.
Sam Howell just got traded for a 3rd-round pick. And Justin Fields goes for a 2025 6th that if he plays, maybe it's a conditional 4th. Tony, we couldn't even get a 2024 pick. What does that confirm what a lot of people reported that 31 teams in this league believe Justin Fields is a backup?
I think so. I think, and as much as I hated to admit it, when the Mac Jones trade first happened from New England to Jacksonville, and they gave as little as they did, I was like, and then you went back and you look at his stats, you're like, man,
it was
it
similar
might.
from a passing perspective. You and I said it to Frankie. He said it was, rushing, sure, Justin clears, but passing, they were like neck and neck. And I think Mac played more games, to be fair, but I think you're right. And they got a 6th pick as well, or a 6th-round pick as well, didn't they?
Yep, sure did. So, and here's the other crazy thing too. It really happened. And if you remember, I told you once free agency really kicked off, that's when we were going to figure out who really, I think, wanted Fields and who evaluated Fields. And the fact that, now that the trades have all happened, everybody's been signed. The fact that, I know we dove into this and we were just surprised at the fact that Kirk Cousins gets $180 million for one playoff win in the 12 years that he's been in the league is absolutely mind blowing. And Warrior Forever, it was confirmed by Ian Rappaport just a few minutes ago that he got traded for at the moment, 6th-round pick, like Mike said, conditional 4th round, if depending on how much he plays.
Yep.
But here's my question though, too. Like we've talked about, where you get drafted matters. The situation you get drafted to matters. And one of the things I want to bring up is look at Cleveland all the way up until they drafted Baker Mayfield. And honestly, even after Baker Mayfield, all the number 1 overall picks that they had, every single one that they drafted on a quarterback as far as potential. Brady Quinn had a fantastic, collegiate career with Notre Dame. You look at Colt McCoy, had a great career with Texas for the longest time. They go to Cleveland, they essentially get ruined, and then they end up being, unfortunately, career backups for the rest of their time. Now, albeit, could they just not correlate and translate that to the NFL? Maybe.
Right.
But, I mean, you look at Justin, like you said, you have an Allen Robinson that was honestly coming out of a career with Jacksonville. So another thing that people need to kind of realize, you have a really good year in Jacksonville. What does that truly mean, especially for as bad as Jacksonville has been
and
over the last few years?
Kind of like you and I talked about DJ Moore. Like I knew who DJ Moore was as an athlete. I knew who he was going to be moving forward with the Chicago Bears in 2023, but I'm really curious about his numbers when you bring in a Keenan Allen, because let's be real. Allen Robinson in Jacksonville, number 1 option. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, of course they're throwing him the rock. Of course they're trying to get him open. I do want to answer a couple questions here. First of all, Warrior says, Fields going to the Steelers. Yes, sir. 6th-round pick, 2025. And then my boy Gio said, what does conditional mean here? So conditional means there are going to be certain specifics that have to happen for the Chicago Bears to be able to get a 4th-round pick instead of a 6th-round pick, or if it's both. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read that report. But what that means basically is essentially if Justin Fields plays more for the Pittsburgh Steelers, if he ends up playing a lot more instead of Russell Wilson playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, then it'll be a 4th-round pick. If he rides the bench all year, it's going to be a 6th-round pick. It was very similar to the New York Jets' situation with Aaron Rodgers. If he had played 70% of his season, I believe they were going to have to give up a 2nd-round pick to the Green Bay Packers. He was hurt 70 seconds into the season. So he obviously only had to give up a 3rd-round pick. So it basically means if he meets certain criteria, if he meets certain accolades, that they're going to have to give a 4th-round pick rather than a 6th. But as it sits today, from what I understand and from what a lot of people know, Russell Wilson is a relatively healthy guy. He's available a lot. Whether he's good or bad, I can't speak on that, but that doesn't matter. As long as he's starting, we will likely just get a 6th-round pick. But it is Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith, so they love to switch quarterbacks quarterbacks around like I change socks. So, it could go either way. I know a lot of people feel a lot of different ways right now, but Tony and I are here breaking it down. This is a Bears therapy session live on St. Patrick's Day. I'm hoping, man, I know how many Bears fans are crying right now, either because of all the green beer they drank today or because of the news about Justin Fields. But I will say this, man, at the end of the day, you're a Bears fan first. We got 200 people in this live right now on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. And I just want to say everybody understands that it's all about the Bears. If you're a real Bears fan, that's what it is. That's what it's always going to be. So Caleb Williams, welcome to the city of Chicago. Unless Ryan Poles pulls off a masterpiece and a complete swap and gets Jaden Daniels, I don't see it happening. But at the end of the day, man, let me be real. Caleb Williams, this is you. This is your opportunity. Just like B Rabbit said, you got one shot, one opportunity. Nah, I'm playing.
Mhm.
But it really is. This is the moment. Everybody's been talking down on you. Everybody's been saying that you're not that guy. You have an ego. You're a prima donna. You're a bust. Prove them wrong. You have every
Mhm.
opportunity to have success, every opportunity to win. Tony, why are you sending me roses on TikTok right now?
'Cause why not?
It-
'Cause I
it- Don't
love you,
don't
buddy.
send me these.
I gotta give you love right now,
Don't
okay?
send me
It's
these
been
things.
rough. I gotta
We're
send
on a
you love.
live together. Why are you sending me these things? And make sure
Why?
if you're on the live on TikTok that you're checking us out. Hit that follow button at the shy.kid and inside the Hoosier Mind. You can check out Tony all the time. Check out my followers list. You can see Tony on there inside the Hoosier Mind, keeping you up to date with everything football. But man, it's crazy. Caleb Williams, like I said, is in a situation right now to become not only a Chicago legend, but one of the greatest Chicago Bears quarterbacks of all time. That's not me overhyping him. That's what the standard is. You want to be the next Patrick Mahomes? Okay, cool. Go be the next fucking Patrick Mahomes. But I won't accept a Jay Cutler. I won't accept
Yep.
the talent of Patrick Mahomes, but the mentality of Jay Cutler to where you don't give a fuck whether we win or lose. You have to go in there and you have to win. This ain't Lincoln fucking Riley. This is Matt
Mhm.
Eberflus. So you're going to have to make plays. This is Shane Waldron. I don't know much about Shane. I'm excited to learn about Shane and what he's trying to run. I've been watching a lot of tape from the Seattle Seahawks of 2023, and obviously going from 2021 to 2023, his time with the Rams is a little harder because McVay's there.
Yep.
But you understand you're in a good situation. This is a winning situation for the Chicago Bears, whether we like it or not. Would I have loved a leader like Justin Fields to take over the city of Chicago? Of course. Of
Mhm.
course I would. I mean, the kid made me want to run through a brick wall from ages 15 on. The man had a mentality of a man amongst boys. That's what it was. But at the end of the day, this is a business decision. And what this helps me is just like we talked about with Justin Jefferson. Why they move on from Kirk Cousins is so they can write a blank check to Jettas. When you
Yep.
have Keenan Allen on a 1-year deal, and it was reported today that the Bears are very interested in a long-term deal, Tony, to me, having Caleb on that rookie year deal, the first few years, obviously, he's not going to be making that much money. If you
Yep.
understand how rookie contracts work. Number one overall pick gets the most money, but relatively speaking, it's still not going to be over $10 million a year. So, with that being said, I'm sitting here today confident that not only can we extend Keenan Allen, but Caleb Williams will be able to help learn and develop from guys like DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, and Keenan Allen. And I'm really excited about it. I still have high hopes for guys like Tyler Scott, but Tone, that's where this next convo started. You saw me walking around yesterday interviewing fans. Some people were in my comments saying, well, good thing you don't have to worry about it. Caleb's not going to be a Bear. Right now, Caleb Williams at the collegiate level for 3 seasons wore number 13. Keenan
Mhm.
Allen, his entire NFL career, I can't speak on collegiate, but I can speak on NFL, wore number
Mhm.
13. Tony,
Yep.
today, if you're Tyler Scott, how much are you asking for number 13 from either Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams? And does the offer change based on who wants it?
I think so. If I'm Tyler Scott, I give preference to Keenan. Keenan's been in the league longer. Keenan's made number 13 more relevant than Caleb has. To me, I give it to Keenan. Now, I will say Keenan did wear number 81 when he was at the University of Cal, so maybe he could go back to 81 if he absolutely wants to.
Right.
If 81's not retired, I
It
think
is
it may
not.
be.
It is not.
Okay,
I know Cameron Meredith wore 81 just a
that's
few
right.
years ago.
Yeah, so
I think one of our tight ends did too.
he could switch to 81 if he really, really wants to. For Caleb, all honesty, here's the thing: if I'm Tyler Scott, and this is kind of what was leading me into my kind of feelings about Caleb. I do think the potential is there because obviously we've seen him do great things with Lincoln Riley. We saw him, come back against Texas at Oklahoma. That's when he really first made his name. Then he transferred to USC, and then last year, after he faced Notre Dame, he unfortunately went downhill.
Right.
My biggest thing, if I'm Tyler Scott, even though it's an intangible and I don't know how it's going to get done, if I'm looking at Caleb, I say, look, if you're coming in to be our quarterback, I need you to be a leader. I don't care if you get emotional, if you cry, if you get happy after game, because we've seen a lot of dudes do that after they
Yeah.
win a Super Bowl, after they lose a game, win a
Saw
game,
Joel
whatever.
Embiid cry out the tunnel against the Toronto Raptors in 2018,
Yeah,
2019.
like I'm not upset about that, but there does come a point where if say you're down by 14 points and you need to make that comeback, I need to be able to look over at Caleb and know, okay, he's cool, he's calm, he's collected. I know I
Right.
have a leader that we are going to be able to look to be able to make this happen. Because whether you come in as a rookie or not, if you're a 21-year-old kid, you're still the quarterback. Grown men are going to look to you like, all right, man, what you got? Lead us to victory. So if I'm
Right.
Tyler, that's what I say. I say, look, man, I know you're not making, well, actually not with NIL, you making good money. Tell you what, give me 500K to my charity of choice. I'll give you the number 13, but I also want you to
Charity.
oh yeah, charity.
Sir, Tyler Scott is like a 4th round pick, 3rd round pick. My man, get that bag, Tyler. Don't hey, listen. You can give about 10K to charity of choice, but if you my price is also
10K?
500K. I give about
10K?
10K. Is it
Okay.
taxed? If it's not taxed, I'll give 100K. If it's taxed, I'm giving 10. Um,
It
no,
depends
I'm
on how
playing.
it depends on how he gives it. Because
Right.
there's like a whole stipulation. If you give like somebody, it's like 900, it's like you have to give them just under 10 grand for it to be considered a gift, and you just got to do that like 100
100
million
million times.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
in
We just
order
said
for it
the
to
same
happen.
thing. But hey, let me ask you something. Caleb Williams is a Chicago Bear. We have seen the fuck Utah fingernails painted.
hmm
Are you anticipating a fuck Green Bay fingernail painting, or do you think he'll cut it at the NFL level?
I'm gonna be honest. I think he does it. I think he does it in this first year. And here's what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to do it once or twice, and he's going to literally get smacked in the mouth by somebody. He's going to get sacked, and they're going to be like, "Don't do that."
Don't
Like
do
Nick
that
Saban.
again. No.
Like I don't know. Did you see not this past season, but season before last when Alabama came to Texas and they beat them, and
Yes.
everybody was doing the horns down, and Nick Saban's,
Yes.
"Don't do that shit." That's going to be what everybody tells Caleb when he gets smacked in the mouth. Don't
No,
do that
yeah.
shit.
I agree with you. I agree with you full-heartedly. Like, don't get it wrong. I'm not a hater whatsoever. I would love it. I think it would be dope. If he had the F Green Bay fingernails painted, I think it'd be one of the coldest things. But I think at the end of the day, man, what it's gonna come down to for me is who he is on the field. Like, because here's my problem. Here's where I'm at. You could talk about his ego. You could talk about Caleb Williams, the man, Caleb Williams, the person, who he's going to potentially be, but the big thing for me is how long is this going to take? Is this going to be an experiment like Bryce Young? Or is this going to be a hey, we're going to the playoffs in year one like CJ Stroud? That's the big question for me because he's not sitting. That was the real big question was if we keep Justin Fields, are you going to start Fields for year one and have Caleb learn under the system with Shane Waldron and watch Justin Fields? That was a potential possibility. Now you're in a situation to where we're watching Caleb Williams get thrown to the wolves by Chicago media, who's been eating him alive over the last 365 days, really, and what
hmm
it feels, and all in the entirety of 2024 thus far. So you watch that happen, and you're watching this unravel, and you're questioning what is the realistic expectations of the 2024 Chicago Bears. Tony, to you, do you still hold on to anything less than 10 wins is a failure?
No, I think with their idea of it and the fact that they've brought in Keenan, they've brought, they still have DJ, they've revamped the O line, and then depending on what they do in the draft, I think at minimum they're look if it's anything, I would even say under 8 wins, it's still a bad season, and they still go back to the drawing board and they blow a lot of stuff up and they try to redo everything. Because to me, Justin got him to 7 wins last year. Well, between Justin and Tyler Bagent both got him to 7 wins last year.
Beige.
So They took 2 quarterbacks, but it happened.
And also, fun fact, Tyson Bagent has 3 years left on his deal. He lasted longer than Justin Fields. I never thought I would utter those words, but it's happened. So please continue. Please continue.
And I think right now, if you look at it, we think Minnesota's probably going to take a step back because they have Sam Darnold as their starting quarterback, and they're probably going to potentially draft somebody because, can Sam be that guy now that he got to be under Shanahan's system for a year? Now he, has Kevin O'Connell, who's from Sean McVay's system and whatnot. Can he potentially do it? We'll see. Obviously, as you know, I'm not sold in Jordan Love. I
Right.
think he definitely has a true sophomore slump this year because
Oh, Tony.
everybody gonna figure him out. I know
The hate
this
in your
Jordan
heart
Love
for
hate.
Jordan Love is crazy.
Oh, it's never gonna end, man. It's never gonna end. I can't wait for next year. It's gonna be
Oh,
so great.
stop it. Stop
But
it.
nonetheless, I think there is a real potential chance for the Bears to capitalize on the Vikings rebuilding. I think there's a chance for them to capitalize on, I'm not going to say Green Bay's rebuilding because Green Bay has a lot of their young core pieces. They did get better in free agency because they added Xavier McKinney. They did add they added Josh Jacobs in the run game, and obviously Minnesota only added Aaron Jones to their running back room, which that's kind of hit and miss. But I do think that eight or 9 wins is a realistic possibility for Chicago, given what they've got right now. Given the fact that Caleb is going to be a rookie, he's going to have to learn the system. He's going to have to build that connection with both Keenan and DJ, and then any wide receivers that they may or may not potentially dropped. John is very upset that we keep getting fleeced by Pittsburgh with Chase Claypool and Justin Fields both, which I get.
I mean, I agree. I completely agree. I mean, you gave up a second round pick for Chase Claypool, who had
Mhm.
1 touchdown in 15 games. And then you give Justin Fields up for a 6th round pick, a conditional 4th in 2025, mind you. My boy Marshawn said, I can't lie. I do not like this. And a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people love it. And it's tough, man. It's one of those things where it's like, listen, here's what the conversation becomes. Now, I'm going to be honest. As much as we just talked about, Caleb Williams could be one of the best Chicago Bears of all time. Caleb Williams could be a Chicago legend if he wins a Super Bowl in Chicago as QB1. But here's where it happens with Ryan Poles. The seat, to me, just got 10 times hotter. And why
Mhm.
that is because if in the future, this goes into 2024 on with Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they have success and Caleb Williams is anything less than elite and a generational talent, you look crazy. If CJ Stroud continues to have success after already making the playoffs and winning a playoff game last year, you passed up on CJ last year. If he has success, you're on the hot seat. If Bryce Young figures it out with Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and all the guys that they're adding in Carolina, you're on the hot seat. If guys like Jaden Daniels or Drake May, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, sure. If the guy who had 10 completions in the national championship game finds a way to have success, sure. I'm done with the JJ McCarthy conversations. He's not a fucking top 10 pick. You guys got to stop. But with that being said,
Agreed.
please
Agree.
agree. Because how you throw 10 completions in the national championship game because your fucking head coach doesn't trust you, it's beyond me. But the point of all of it is this. If CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Jaden Daniels, or Justin Fields, let's say 2 or 3 of them have elite success at the NFL level, and Caleb Williams is anything less than an elite generational prospect, and the Bears aren't going to the playoffs, you're fired.
Yep.
You're done. And
Mhm.
as good as you did, as bringing in Jalen, bringing in Montez, bringing in all these big names, making sure you re-sign guys. Hey, bringing in Keenan Allen, bringing
Mhm.
in DJ Moore, bringing back everybody. If you don't get this position right after dragging us through the mud with the number 1 overall pick over the last 2 years, and Justin Fields has success in Pittsburgh, Chicago fans are going to go crazy. Like, Tony, let me paint you a picture. I'm not a hater, by the way. We're playing devil's advocate. We're gonna go back to the positive Caleb Williams talk in a couple seconds, but I'm gonna paint you this picture. Caleb Williams throws his 3rd interception of the game against the Green Bay Packers in 2024, and all you hear at Soldier Field is "We want Fields" chants. I know Caleb can't mentally handle that. I don't think I could mentally handle that, and Ryan Poles would be up in that office shitting his pants without a doubt. Because, and I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying if Caleb doesn't have success and Fields does, or CJ does, you're going to sit there and say, I fucked up.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And here's the other thing too that I think doesn't really benefit Caleb is he left Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, his head coach, and he definitely garnered the fame and whatnot when he was able to come back against Texas in the in the Red River Showdown. So he got a lot of the positives and whatnot. He goes to USC, which no offense to any USC fans out there, college football is not as popular as it used to be on the West Coast as it is now. So when USC was losing, there were fans that cared, obviously, but they're not like those really deep blue blood diehard, college football fans. They're not like fans from Michigan. They're not like fans from Ohio State, from Bama, from Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, even. They're not those diehard fans. So when he was losing, he didn't really get a whole lot of negative boos and a lot of that negativity from USC fans as he would from anywhere else. And especially when you go to a very emotional tied city like Chicago, who, and you know better than I do living in the city, you guys are tied to your players. You listen to last year when everybody was chanting, "We want Fields." Like that was the true love that you can get from Chicago.
Right.
Now, like you said, on the other end, you can get a whole lot of hate and you can get a whole lot of boos. Even though as much as we hate to say it, look at every time Aaron Rodgers came to Chicago, he was getting booed to the absolute max every single time he came there just because of how Chicago feels. But I agree. I think if Ryan Poles messes this up, because like I said, where you go matters and your supporting cast matters. I don't know a whole lot about Shane Waldron. I don't know how he's going to do with a Caleb Williams. And I'm gonna be honest with you, when you look at even last year when Caleb's numbers kind of slipped because he had Cliff Kingsbury, who's supposed to quote be a offensive guru. If you mess this up, I would say it's two things. How much is it you drafted the wrong guy?
Right.
And B, how much is it you didn't really look into your skill position coaches as much as you should have? You didn't go get an actually good offensive coordinator. Look at last year when they had Luke Getsy. You just got a dude that, rode Aaron Rodgers jockstrap the entire time. You didn't get a truly good OC. You just got a dude that looks good because he was the offensive coordinator for one of the greatest quarterbacks to play the game in today's current generation.
Wasn't even an OC. Wasn't even an O. I mean, the man.
He was the quarterback's coach, wasn't he?
Man, yeah, we had what was Buddy's name from the Broncos that got a job? Nathaniel Hackett
was
the OC. So like they're so much, or I'm the other way around. It doesn't fucking matter. They both held the jockstrap together. John Harbaugh makes a comment here. Don't know if this is the real John Harbaugh, but if it is, shout out to the Harbaughs.
Right.
Tell your brother we want you. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and DeAndre Swift is one of the best receiving rooms a number one quarterback has ever had. I don't know about ever because there still was a guy named Patrick Mahomes who had Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Kareem Hunt, and Tyreek Hill with Andy Reid as his head coach. So I think Pat was still in a really good situation over there. Don't forget about Slam and Sammy. Sammy did his thing. And also shout out Sammy Sosa for being back in Chicago. Got to give some love to him. Saw him today at Club 400. Super cool. Can't believe Lou Canellis fucking asked him if he was on steroids immediately after Sammy's heartfelt speech about being a man now, understanding what he did wrong. Oh, I'm so sorry, John. I thought you were saying I totally misread what you were saying. I thought you meant like a QB1, a first round draft pick. I didn't know you meant a number one overall pick. So this, I mean, potentially could be the best situation a number one pick has ever come into. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes was most definitely not the number one overall pick. I thought you just meant in terms of a rookie quarterback coming into a situation. But yeah, I mean, there's an argument for it. I think this is definitely, you look at a top 5 defense on the other side of that with Matt Eberflus, they were so amazing in that second half from a pass rushing perspective after acquiring Montez Sweat. They led the league in interceptions. They were a top 2 run stopping defense. What they were able to do was absolutely flawless. And to continue to add to that, let's say they get Jared Versay or they get Dallas Turner or somebody at 9 to pair up with Montez Sweat. You're in an amazing situation if you're the Chicago Bears and Matt Eberflus. So Caleb Williams is going to be in a very similar situation of Mitchell Trubisky from having defensive help. I think the Monsters of the Midway are officially back. And I'm really excited to see how the Monsters of the Midway could potentially transfer to the offense for the first time in its entirety. You know what I
Say
mean? Like,
in Bears history.
yeah, and John also says, I want DJ Chark as our wide receiver 3. That wouldn't be horrible, honestly. I wasn't a big fan of what he was able to do in Jacksonville, I will say that, or in Detroit. But I think at the end of the day, if you're wide receiver 3, I wouldn't mind it. Personally, myself, I'm still huge on a wide receiver in the first round. I don't know how you can get that done. Maybe you trade up to the lower half of the first round. I'm not saying you go at 9 or at 1. Obviously, I think you got to go Caleb at 1, and then I think you have to address the elite pass rushers that are available at 9. Especially Tony and I talked about it. You look at the guys available, and you look at the draft order right now. The draft order as it sits, you're looking at here. I'll pull it up right here. I think you're
See,
looking at least 3 wide receivers taken in a row, in my personal opinion. That's just how I'm really looking at it right now. You're looking at the Giants, the Chargers, and the Cardinals all picking 1, 2, 3, or this is 4, 5, 6.
yeah.
That order is obviously going to be Arizona at 4, the Chargers at 5, and the Giants at 6. And then I don't really know what the Titans or Falcons would do. They're not going quarterback, so they'll go position player as well. I definitely could see, in my opinion, I wanted your take on it. Could you see, real quick, the Titans going after Brock Bowers?
Um, I could see that. I even saw the Chargers potentially doing that as well, as far as going after them. Here's something though that I wanted your take on
Mhm.
to see what you think, because I don't feel like it would put you in a bad spot. Now it would eliminate the Bears from getting Caleb. Say you make a trade with either Washington or the Patriots, so you stay in the top 3, right? Stay in the top 3, trade back a little bit, you get some more, kind of draft capital for the later rounds of the draft. You
Okay.
don't get Caleb, right? But you get the guy that to me is better because I'm a little bit biased in my LSU Tiger, the Heisman winner of this year of Jaden Daniels. You keep number 9, and again, you get that draft depth to be able to not only get a wide receiver, whether it's Brian Thomas out of LSU, because I think he's going to be one of the next ones. One name that I do think a lot of people have him going later in the first round, but I think he could honestly kind of sneak into the top 10, and
Right.
especially I think he would fit the best in the Bears system as a number 3 slot guy. Keon Coleman out of Florida State, because I watched him at Michigan State. He was solid. I think he had 11 touchdowns for Florida State last year in receiving with
Yeah.
his 1 year with Florida State. So
Shout out
I
Florida
would
State, by the way.
I would like that as kind of a later round pick if that's what they decide to do. If
You
they
think he
wanted
goes anything past the 3rd round?
No, no, I definitely
That's
think
what I was thinking too.
I think he's gone honestly before the end of the second. Like
Because I don't
I
think
feel like he's that good.
they don't have a 2nd round pick right now, and I don't believe someone can fact check me if the Bears have a 3rd round pick. I know they traded the 4th for Keenan. I know they had 2 4th round picks this year, but I'm not quite sure on their draft availability right now. But to answer your question, no, no, it's not
Okay.
happening because I want to paint you this picture, and it's really one of those ones I think put things in perspective. Excuse
Mhm.
me. I think when you have a guy like Caleb Williams comparing to, Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence, that kind of draft stock. I mean, I also think people need to remember that people did not look at Trevor Lawrence as just a number 1 pick. Trevor Lawrence was one of the most thought out prospects since Andrew Luck. And we keep saying that Caleb Williams is the first since Andrew Luck. Like, no, like Trevor Lawrence was the same thing. I don't know
Yeah.
why we act like he wasn't. But with that
Yeah.
being said, you trade Fields and you understand that this is your guy at number 1. I understand trading it, and Jaden Daniels, who I'm go Tigers. I've been a big fan of at LSU, especially with Malik Neighbors and what he's been able to do. He's had so much success. So I'm definitely not against Jaden Daniels, but I think in the terms of which you have put Bears fans through this already, I think Bears fans are just trying to get this over with and find out who their QB1 is. What I will say is this: if the Bears traded down for Jaden Daniels and didn't think Caleb Williams was the guy, which I don't think is going to happen, I think Caleb is the guy.
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't Drake May and his 63 completion percentage at the University of North Carolina. I want to put things in perspective really quick too. And the University of Carolina, Mitchell Trubisky had a 68% completion percentage to Drake May's 63%. So yeah, as long as it's not Drake May, I'm perfectly fine. 63 is below average in the NFL, and in college,
Mhm.
it is dog shit. So yeah,
So you don't want another number 10 from, North Carolina and Tar Heel Blue that they reach for?
the
Because I'm be
only
honest.
the only number from North Carolina I'm taking right now, Tone, is number 23, and it's if he comes to the Chicago fucking Bulls. That's the only fucking way.
I don't blame you. But I will say too, because and this is a little bit off topic, but
Okay.
on topic with Drake May though, I haven't understood the hype. I don't really watch a whole lot of ACC games just because they don't really get showed much. The only team that to me was kind of interesting was Florida State, Duke earlier in the year because they beat a very not rebuilding Clemson team, but a down Clemson team for the last
Right.
few years post Trevor Lawrence. But the fact that people are comparing Drake May to Joe Burrow blows my mind. I'm like,
It does.
that's
And
disrespectful to
I
Joe Burrow
I
to
wanna
like
ask
no
you
end.
something really quick, not to cut you off, but we talk about this, you and I, a lot, and it's not just Drake May, but it's always a guy of that status, from the Zach Wilsons at BYU to the Kenny
Mhm.
Pickett's of the world. Listen, I'm gonna sit up here today and be real. Mel Kiper and individuals like Mel Kiper. I'm not gonna say Mel Kiper specifically, even though his mock drafts are actually horrible. If you go back in history's past and watch who he evaluates, he thought Justin Jefferson was a third round pick. So but with that being said, every year I feel like somebody picks a white quarterback from a no-name quarterback football school and says that
Mhm.
he throws just like Aaron Rodgers, or he has the intangibles of Justin Herbert. He's the next Big Ben or Peyton Manning. They do it every year, whether it's Mitchell Trubisky,
Yep.
Drake May, Zach
Mhm.
Wilson, Kenny
Yep.
Pickett. We can do Josh
JJ
Rosen.
JJ McCarthy.
JJ McCarthy. But to JJ's point, at least he won a natty. You know what I mean? 10
But
completions in the national
but
championship game.
but can I add something to that real quick too for the
Please,
people mainly the Michigan fans that are defending JJ to no end.
for
The
sure.
fact that he's what 29-1 in his like collegiate career or whatever.
That is great.
That's fantastic. You wanna know who else had a great college winning career and won 2 national titles back to back and got drafted in the 6th freaking round because people knew where he actually would have been drafted at?
Talk to me.
Stetson freaking Bennett. That's what JJ McCarthy is. He's a poor man Stetson Bennett. Like, you gotta think
I
about it.
said that yesterday, actually. It was a crazy conversation. But like, what do you think? I want to ask you this because Tony at Inside the Hoosier Mind, make sure you follow him. Is definitely one of those guys I go to when it comes to collegiate level football. So how does Stenson go from the 6th round to JJ McCarthy being a top 10 pick? Like, what's the difference to you between the two? Do you think it's just Jim Harbaugh kind of just hyping him up to be more, and that's kind of transpired?
Mhm. So here's what I think it was for Stetson. I think the fact that everybody recognized for 2 years in college football, the absolute best defense that we have ever seen for the last 2 years was through the Georgia Bulldogs. He absolutely got carried by a phenomenal defense. Now,
Jalen
don't get it
Carter, yeah,
twisted. He had a lot of good offensive players, but he mainly got carried by a dominant defense for
right,
2 years, back-to-back national championships. For McCarthy, I think it's a mixture of Harbaugh hyping him up and the fact that while Michigan's defense was dominant, it wasn't to Georgia's level. And the fact that while, yes, he was on the field and he had to make some throws, people forget you had Blake Corum and you had Donovan Edwards, two of the top running backs in the nation, who are probably both going to be gone off the board, I would say, by at least the 3rd round at
right,
minimum. And I guarantee people are also looking at his collegiate record. Oh, he's 29-1 because he handed the ball off. Like
right.
you said, 10 completions in the national title game. You want to know how many times he threw in the second half versus Penn State when they won like 26-15?
Wasn't it like 6 times or something?
0.
0?
He did not throw the
Penn
ball
State
in
or
the
Washington?
Penn State.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Penn State. He didn't throw the ball at all in the second half. They did not have him throw the ball. Now,
And he
albeit why, I don't know, but they just didn't have him throw it.
to your point too, I will say this to the defense of Stenson Bennett and JJ McCarthy. I think the big reason why Stenson goes in the 6th round is he was 25 years old coming into the draft. That's definitely a no-no when you're looking at a franchise quarterback. You want them to be, as young as possible, so you have them for 10 plus years, and if you get the best versions of themselves, like we can make an argument that Stenson Bennett was in his athletic prime going up against 18 and 19-year-olds for the majority of the time. So that's definitely a big part of it as well. But in terms of, we got my guy. I sent him the link, but he wasn't able to hop on. He just got off work. We have Rob Scott, Rob's 2 cents. Rob's 2 cents today are the Bears just pissed me off. You and a lot of other Chicagoans. The fish are mad. The water is green in Chicago right now for St. Patrick's Day. A beer is green. It was a lovely day at St. Patrick's Day. And unfortunately, Ryan Poles said he wasn't celebrating. He was on the clock. He had to make sure after the moving of Kenny Pickett that the Steelers, who seem to be one of the only teams interested in Justin Fields, weren't going to go after another veteran quarterback or another young quarterback to potentially be that QB2. We have a 6th-round pick in return for Justin Fields in 2025, not even in 2024. As it sits today, man, I know we're going to get out of here shortly. We're just beating a dead horse at this point. We will be live later on tonight, so make sure you hit that follow button if you haven't already on the Shy.Kid on TikTok and Instagram, because apparently we might be banned soon. But no, I'm playing. I don't know. The government's mad at TikTok for whatever reason. But
I know the only thing they can come together on is that TikTok is supposedly bad.
I don't know. But Instagram and Facebook are perfectly okay. I have no idea. I don't know why, but just make sure you hit that follow button if you haven't already. Definitely check out Tony at Inside the Hoosier Mind on TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, Anchor, everywhere you can find him. He's also on Instagram and Facebook as well. We're about to get out of here, but I appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to go live later on today. We're going to continue talking about Chicago Bears football. A clear decision is now here. We have been waiting for what seems to be 4+ months at this point of who was going to be the QB1 of the Chicago Bears. You can check out a recent video I just did yesterday at the Chicago Sports Spectacular interviewing Bears fans if they wanted Justin or Caleb. I guess it doesn't matter anymore, but if you want to see a fun one, check out the Tyler Scott interview. That one's more real and more alive than ever. But until then, man, this has been Tony Hollinsworth from Inside the Hoosier Mind. I am Mike Hughes, aka the Shy Kid. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for listening. Until then, we'll check you out later. Peace.